Alright, welcome back. In this video, we are going to tie up a few more loose ends. I did one of these videos a few videos back in this series, and I figured it was time to do one more. I've been keeping track of a few things that I have either forgotten about or just didn't have a place to put in one of the previous videos. So if you are following along with this series, this video will be pretty important. If you have not been following along with the series, this video probably won't mean much to you. This is very specific to the project that we are creating throughout this very long series. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. I have my level 1 tab open. One of the things that we did a couple videos back was we dragged out these icons onto the layout using this dotted line as our guide to where we would place the icons for the options feature. We do not need these to be in a level layout. To explain this, I'm just going to show you what happens. I'm going to highlight all of these and I'm going to delete them. So now they do not exist on a layout in the game. And I'm going to go up here and preview the project that will start us at the title screen. And we have our little options cogwheel, and I'll press it. And we have a problem. So all of our icons are the original size that they were when we imported them into Construct 3. I'll exit out of that. What we did was we came in here using this layout as a guide to where we would place the icons, and then we resized them. But then once I deleted those instances, Construct 3 has nothing to reference anymore. So I am going to Control Z to undo our last delete. And I am going to come over here to our layouts. And in the meta folder, we should have a meta layout. I'm going to open that up. We have used this several times, obviously, in previous videos. So we kind of just use this meta layout as a dumping ground. For example, we resized these buttons. Therefore, if we want them to load at this size in the game, they have to exist in the game. Over here on level 1, I am going to zoom in down here. And I'm going to copy all these. And I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard and press X. And what that does is it deletes everything and it copies it to your computer's clipboard. So back in the meta tab, I'm going to just click anywhere in the layout and then Control V to paste. That'll bring up our little plus symbol, and then we can just place it wherever we want and click left click on the mouse button, and there it is. I'll move that over to the side. So one of the things we don't need is this cogwheel, and that is because it exists. I'll go to our menu retry. Remember, we put it in all of these menus where we wanted our options to be available. So we manually placed them. So back in our meta layout, with the cogwheel highlighted, I'm just going to delete it. And everything else has been resized and we need to preserve its properties. So I will go ahead and preview the project again, starting us from the title screen. And when I hit the options wheel, everything is at the settings that we had given it previously. That takes care of that. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of my meta tab. And then over here, I'm going to close up my layouts. And in our event sheets, in the menus subfolder, I'm going to open up the menu retry. And then we can open up the retry button group. I'll stretch that out a little so we can see what's going on. Up here where we use the tap gesture for the button retry, that sends you back to, we have it set up to go to level 1. We'll change that here in a minute. When you press quit, we back you out of that screen and send you back to the map. But we change all these variables if we press the retry button. We need all this stuff to happen when you press the quit button as well. We check to see if touch active is 0. Up here, we set it to true here so that you can't spam the button. And we don't want to spam the quit button either. It has the possibility of creating unwanted occurrences in the game. But we want it to fade out just like we do if we retry the level. I'm going to highlight these 3 actions right there. And I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard, click and drag down a copy, just like that. So the same thing is happening here when we hit the quit button. we set touch active to true, we start fading the screen out for half a second, and we wait a total of 1 second to let everything fade to black, and then we send you back out to the map. And before we exit out of menu retry, when we come to the retry screen, it is because a player has failed the level. They have failed to complete the level and collect the diamond. If they press the retry button, the way we have it set up right now is to send you back to level 1. But in our layouts, remember we created these template levels just so we would have something to reference to that we can fill in later. And I want to be able to send the player to whichever level they were just playing. If you were playing level 3 and you died and you go to the retry screen, if you hit button retry, I want it to know what level you're on and send you to that level. So to do that, we are going to create a variable that will store what level the player is on. So let's go over to our event sheets, and in our meta folder, we have the global variables event sheet. Let's call that up, and in a blank space down here, right click and add a global variable. And I'm going to call this variable current layout, and I'm going to change the type to a string. This means it will hold a text value instead of a number value. So we'll actually be able to get the name of the level they are on, meaning level 1, 2, level 3, level 4, so on. And let's drag that new variable up to our levels system up here where we have the level system comment. We do not need that anymore. I'm going to exit out of the global variables, go back to our menu retry, and then where it says go to level 1 after we press the button retry, let's go into that action, double click to go into it, and then hit the back button. And down here we have the go to layout highlighted. Right next to it should be go to layout by name. So I'm going to select that. So here you can actually type in the name of the layout you want to go to. So for us, if we wanted to send them to level 2, that is the name of the layout, I would just type in level_2 in between quotation marks, and it would go specifically to level 2. But I don't want it to go to a specific level. I want it to go to the level that is stored in that variable we just created. So I'm going to just type in the name of that variable, which was current layout. So now we just need to figure out the correct time and place to give this variable its value. So I'm going to go over here and open up the controls event sheet, and in player death, I'll stretch this out. As soon as you die, we can change the value of the current layout variable. So down here in this bottom block of code, I'm going to add an action, go into our system, and I want to set the value of current layout, and the value is going to be an expression. And this is something that's already built into Construct 3. If we just start typing out layout, we should get layout name as one of our options. So I'm going to click on that. And this is going to read whatever layout you're on, which in our case will be the level. It's going to read that name and give this variable the value of that level name. So I'm going to hit done, move that up before we leave and go back to menu retry. So now when the player dies, it will run through this code. It will set the current layout to the name of the level you're on. Then it'll go to menu retry, and then on menu retry, this will already have its value. Okay, I'm going to close that up and close out of our retry and close our player death, close out of that. And I'm going to now open up our functions event sheet, and I'll show you the issue we're having here. If I go ahead and preview the project, I can play. And remember, we have this set up to where we fade in to the level. But if I press on the level, there's no fade in. It just jumps straight to the level and zooms in. So we have a bit of an issue there. That is going to be located in our function start level group. The reason we're not getting the fade is because we adjusted the fade object when we set up the pause feature. So in our main event sheet, we have all our pause code. Remember, we set the opacity to 50 when it's paused, and 0 when it is not. We use the else statement. So when it goes into the function, the code has already read that pause code and said that it's not paused, so the fade object should be 0 opacity, meaning you can't see it on screen. So what we can do here is in this bottom block of code in our function start level, let's add an action, go into our system. I'm going to type in group, and I want to set group active. I'm going to type in pause, and I'm going to set it to deactivated. Then I'm going to drag this all the way up here. So in this bottom block of code, we should be able to create the camera object, and then we set player controls, the animation, and the pause feature to deactivated. And then before the level starts, we want to make sure that pause feature is available. So with this highlighted, I'm going to hold Control on the keyboard, click and drag down a copy all the way down to the bottom. And I'll actually go below set is playing to 1. It should look something like that. And then let's go into this and change deactivated to activated, because we want to make sure that we have the ability to use our pause. Okay, I'm going to preview the project again. And when we go into the level, we it did fade, but we have the blur issue. So we can take care of that as well. In our main event sheet, in the pause group, we actually were deactivating the entire pause group here in the function right here. So the blur is not set to 0 opacity. So the blur is at full opacity when we start this layout, when that function runs. So here in our main event sheet, up here in the initialize main, in this on start of layout, I am going to add an action, go to system, and I'm going to start typing in layer, set layer opacity, and that layer is going to be in parentheses the blur layer. Make sure that the name of the layer is in parentheses, and the opacity is going to be 0. And that should be good. I'm going to close that up. Let's go ahead and test, make sure that everything comes back on and works the way it's supposed to. There we go. It was very subtle, but it did fade in, and we'll actually take care of some of that timing when we do the audio in the next couple of videos. And when I press pause, we get our blur back, we get our fade in the background back. If we play, everything's working. Okay, I'm going to quit out of that, and I'm going to do it again, but as soon as I click on this, I'm going to try to use the pause feature. So we're going to go into the level, and it's not here, so I can't use it until the level starts. We've eliminated any problems with the pause firing before it needs to. I'm going to exit out of that, and that actually should wrap up our little tying up loose ends video here. I am going to close some of this up, and I'm going to exit out until I just have level 1 showing. And then over here, I'm going to close some of these up and just get tidied up. If you have any sprites or objects or anything that is outside of a folder, this would be a good time to find those objects or sprites a nice little home inside of a folder. I can't stress that enough, especially in large projects. In the next video, we are going to start getting the audio in, and we will set up our sound effects for the game. So I will see you in the next video, and make sure that you are saving often.